Hello and welcome to Updog Sports Talk. We have a special edition going over the Mountain West previews today. At Updog Sports Talk, we deliver honest, fan-focused coverage that spotlights the teams, athletes, and communities that are often overlooked by mainstream sports media because your team has a story worth telling. So we are going to be going over the Mountain West today. We're going to be going team by team. With each team, we'll be going over what we're most excited about with that team, what the biggest concern is with that team, what will keep their fans up at night this offseason as we head into the season, and then also what success looks like. At the end of the show, we will also be going over our sleeper picks, and we'll be picking our conference champions. So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. This won't be super in-depth. I know for us, like a more in-depth preview, you can head over to our Substack at Updog Sports Talk over there. We have more deeper previews of each of these teams. But that being said, that's enough talking from me. We are joined by a special guest, Omar, the Burger Popper, the Cornacchia Bowls. He's a writer for Redshirt Sports. He's a writer for As for Football. He does a lot of other things. Welcome, Omar.
Thank you, Justin. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, whether it's football or even just like talking just life in general. I'm just glad to be here in the preseason. I'm glad we're able to do this now because I'm away for work. Don't have family obligations like in person at least. I still talk to my family while I'm away at work, but I'm just enjoying just soaking in and cramming for the start of the season, which is less than a month from now.
Yeah, we are almost there. When it comes to FCS, week 0 is less than a month away. That will start on August 27th. So very exciting stuff. So we just jump to the Air Force Falcons. Omar, when you look at this team, what are you most excited about? We're trying to see if Troy Calhoun can get this squad back going. It's been 2 down years for them.
Oh boy. So when I think about Air Force as someone that watches at the service academies very intently and very deeply, the deepest of any school, probably in college football, or any group of schools, I should say, in college football. I think what excites me the most, easy answer would be like Liam Zarka. I want to say that Owen Allen excites me the most. And in general, just this whole option attack. Now they have to find that sort of Cade Frew tailback, Cade Frew, John Lee Eldridge running back, which they'll find in the first couple games, that sort of guy that runs the edge. But I have to say, like, Liam Zark is an easy answer at quarterback, but Owen Allen is a really good fullback. And I think, honestly, without getting in trouble with my own fan base at Army, I think Air Force's fullbacks tend to be the most exciting fullbacks, I want to say, out of the 3 service academies, because they essentially have like the big running back mold. Owen Allen, of course, fits that mold. A couple years ago, Brad Roberts led the country in rushing, fit that mold. I mean, like, they're just fun guys to watch. You're guys that'll run you over, have a little bit of finesse. So in general, the Air Force triple option should be rolling from all cylinders, and I think we'll see more dependence on the run than last year, because last year Zarka could sling it quite a bit. Bruin Fleischman was there. He had the amazing game against Navy. Both of them did. Cade Harris had almost 600 receiving yards, but Fleischman and Harris are gone. So I think this is going to be like more of your traditional Air Force team. That's not to say that they can't sling the ball, but I think the first few games you're going to see that traditional, like, Owen Allen up the middle, Liam Zarka just mixing it up in the edge, flight suit Josh Allen after throwing the nickname. And so I have to say Owen Allen as a more specific answer, but yeah, the triple option is always exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. With Zarka was so exciting throwing the ball, but while it's a lot of fun for us to watch, I feel like when they're throwing the ball, that usually means things are not operating as healthy for Air Force. And in the case last year, we saw your strength is the same as my strength. I'm also excited to see Liam Zarka and Owen Allen on a triple option offense. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. My biggest concern is, because I kind of just hinted at it, can the defense take a step forward? Like, in the past, we have seen Troy Calhoun Air Force teams play very solid defense. Like, usually they have good players in the secondary. They force turnovers. Last year, they just couldn't provide resistance. So we need to see them take a step forward this year for Air Force. What is your biggest concern for the Falcons?
Yeah, so I kind of echo that concern, but I'm going to be more specific and say up the middle at nose tackle because Peyton Zadroik is gone. Everyone, when they think of like the Service Academy, like nose tackle that gets the most attention, everyone thinks, of course, of Landon Robinson. But Zadroik was just as much of a game changer, a centerpiece, a focal point for that defense. So I want to say up the middle is the biggest concern because they have ballers all around. I mean, you know that Air Force can produce good defensive backs. Heck, Trey Taylor won the Thorpe Award a few years ago as the best defensive back in the country. First, like Service Academy player to win an award of that stature in 60 years. And they have good defensive backs coming back this year. And the linebacker position, they have a good middle linebacker in Blake Fletcher, who Shrine Bowl 1000, Shriners Children's 1000, but up the middle too. I think a Service Academy defense runs well when it's bend but don't break, as we see with Army. But if Air Force can't stop the run up the middle, I mean, I think some of the weakest Army and Navy and Air Force teams have been the ones that can't stop the run. The teams that are getting run over and are having the 6, 7 yard drives done to them instead of the other way around. So but losing Zadroik is a huge, huge loss, and I want to see how they address that. So that's my biggest concern.
That's a good one. And what does success look like for Air Force in 2026?
Okay, like I have kind of a hot take. I'm not much of a hot take guy, but I can kind of see a scenario where if Troy Calhoun loses to Army and doesn't go to a bowl, where he could be out, I think by this year or 2027 if 2027 at the very least if they don't make a bowl the next 2 years. But a fact that's been on my mind a lot as an Army fan is the fact that there has never been, since the Commander-in-Chief's trophy has been established in 1972, there has never been an Air Force senior class that has lost 4 times to Navy. Or sorry, to Army. Has lost 4 times to Army. So I can kind of see the seat heating up where it's like, how, like, what's going on, Troy? Like the best Air Force team since 2002, or yeah, I guess 2002, since 98 or so it seemed, able to get like fumbled the ball, literally fumbled the game literally away to Army in 2023. And then maybe it's getting overplayed because someone asked about it at American Conference Media Day. Overplayed thing that, like, hey, the service academies love bowl games, but like I don't think it's overplayed, honestly. I think it's true. Like, you tell these guys are gonna play football one more time, they're gonna jump at it. And talking to Dylan Carson of Air Force, one of their backup fullbacks that graduated last year, who played in the Dream Bowl All-Star game, he's like, look, I don't care if I get to go pro. I get to play football one more time, and then I get to fly planes. So I think a bowl game, that's to say in another long roundabout way, a bowl game is definitely success. But I'm interested to see what happens, though, if Air Force doesn't beat Army, because that is literally a historic event. That would happen if that occurred.
Yeah, that's actually that's a good call out there. And it's very odd because 2023 Air Force is undefeated entering that game, and Army has kind of broken them a little bit. Air Force has not looked the same ever since that specific game. So yeah, getting over the Army hump, I think is an important one. And of course, I think reaching a bowl game will be a huge success for them. I am watching for this team to try to stay in the Mountain West hunt, but they might be just a year out from that. So
Yeah, I guess
next,
without
we go
spoiling, yeah.
to one of. Sorry,
No, I was saying, like, I guess without
one last
spoiling,
point.
they might be a year away, but that might spoil one of the topics later on.
Ooh, potential sleeper pick. Maybe we'll see. Hawaii is up next. I got very excited to talk about the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. This is one of our favorite teams to talk about. So what excites you the most about Hawaii this year?
I think what excites me the most, of course, easy answer is Micah Alihado. Honestly, that's the easy answer. But I'm just going to say, like, Cam Barfield is very exciting. I'm excited to see how he fits in this run and shoot scheme because he's a smaller back, and you like the bigger backs in the run and shoot because you only have one back typically. I mean, like the Landon Sims, who was phenomenal last year throughout his Hawaii career. Nate Ilawa also comes to mind too when you think of big run and shoot backs. Dayton Ferruta, all those guys. But Barfield's like a really great kick returner. He'll factor well in the passing game. So to be specific, like, I'd say Cam Barfield. But in general, I really don't think that last year the passing game for Hawaii was good, but I don't think it was operating at full capacity in the run and shoot just because Alejado was banged up most of the time. The O-line struggled at times as well. So I'm excited with another year under their belt, seeing like the heights that this run and shoot can reach.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited for Alejado as well. He put on incredible fun performances, especially to start and end the year. But I think the other thing I'm looking forward to is just these receivers. We have the ever reliable Pafeli Ashlock back again, but next to him, I think there's a lot of former power conference talents that are trying to follow the Jackson Harris route of coming to Hawaii, learning the system, playing very well, and in his case, he transferred out. Who knows? Maybe these guys will stick around if they have a big year. But I think you're seeing that display of what Jackson Harris did last year allow Hawaii to really be very relevant in the portal when it comes to receivers. So I think we're going to see them look pretty good at that position. So what is your biggest concern for Hawaii in 2026?
I think my biggest concern for Hawaii in 2026 would have to be their defense, to be honest with you. And I think, I mean, they have plenty of talent at linebacker. They have some good talent at linebacker. I mean, Jemai Otis, 59 tackles. Elijah Palmer had 10 pass breakups on the back end, 80.5 coverage grade. But I want to say, like, up front as well. Up front, or just, like, all around, honestly, especially in bigger games. Because for me, they were kind of inconsistent in the bigger games. Like they're for every time that they beat, I guess, San Diego State 38-6, there was the UNLV game where they lost 38-10. So I'd like to see more consistency from the defense, especially in those bigger games, particularly probably in the secondary, really, because I think for Hawaii, similar to the service academies where I guess it's like both ends of like both extremes of that offense where it's like you score so much you only want your defense to be semi not efficient but resistant in a way like bend but don't break. I want to stop using bend but don't break because I feel like there's other terms, but you want your defense to be resistant enough so you can outrun, outpace the other offense in the track meet, since that's what Hawaii wants to be in track meets. I just don't know if they have the defense to do that against your UNLVs, against well, not San Diego State, mainly against UNLVs and potentially New Mexico. So that's my biggest concern.
Yeah, especially the run defense. I feel like we saw that get taken advantage of a few times last year. So I'll go a different route here. And you actually kind of hinted about this earlier, but I'm looking at that pass protection. I want to see that improve a little bit. Keep Micah Alejado healthy the whole year, especially because you don't have a Luke Weaver back there as his backup anymore. So that will be another challenge. So yeah, I think that is reducing those negative plays is going to be a huge key. Like you mentioned the UNLV game again. That one is a huge tone setter for Hawaii very early in the year. And last year the line could not protect against the Rebels. So they'll need to improve in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting though. Like it's kind of weird that they have the offensive line troubles because the run and shoot is for the most part a quick strike system. Like you're supposed to get the ball out quick on the edge, and it's just kind of weird that those troubles exist on the offensive line for such a short or drop back passing scheme.
Yeah. I feel like anytime they wanted to do a little bit more than going short, it felt like it really fell apart on them. So what does success for Hawaii look like to you in 2026?
So for me, I think success for Hawaii, I'm gonna go medium level ceiling here, where honestly a bowl game, Hawaii Bowl is success for Hawaii. I know everyone wants Hawaii to make the next jump, but we just have to keep in mind that from 2022 to 2024, like this program was in a doldrum under Timmy Chang, and I know that we got the flash in the pan of last year, the high of beating Cal in the Hawaii Bowl, beating Stanford as well. So going 2-1 against the Power Four, 9-win season. But I don't think Hawaii fans should be disappointed in making a bowl, frankly. I think if they were to make a bowl, and I honestly for this team, like my projection is I still have to look. I forget about if they whether they play New Mexico. I want to say that they do play New Mexico, but if this is a 9-3, 10-2 even team with just a loss to UNLV and a loss to Arizona State, but they beat Stanford, 10-2 team heading to the Hawaii Bowl. Like I don't think that's bad. I feel like not making Hawaii Bowl is just not successful. I think at this stage, maybe next year, they'll be in that state where it's conference championship or bust. But I mean, I feel like they're still in the stage where they're getting the island like to buy in, like to still to like the island's bought in, but it's kind of like finalizing that buy-in, solidifying it. Um, and just holding on to it long enough before NASID opens a new Aloha Stadium Entertainment District. So that's just my view.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think making and winning the Hawaii Bowl would be a successful season for them. Now, there is a ceiling for more. They could end up winning this conference altogether. They have the talent to do it as long as a few pieces here come together. But I think worst case, like if Hawaii finishes with a winning record and wins the Hawaii Bowl, I think we're happy watching that season, and I think Hawaii fans, while frustrated at some points during the year, will ultimately be happy with that result.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Like,
that brings us to
sorry,
yeah,
I'm sorry, I did it again. I'm disagreeing. I did it again.
no worries. Yeah, I was waiting until like there was like a sufficient pause, and then. But anyways, the Nevada Wolfpack. They're coming off a 3-9 year. There's been always those hints that this team could really just turn it around and finally have a good year. So let's spend more time on the positives of this team. What excites you the most about Nevada this year?
I think what excites me the most, I'd have to say the defense. Well, honestly, like Nevada actually, how do I put this? Like instead of like the whole defensive line unit, I think what excites me is Dylan LaBarbera. Like individually, the fact that they were able to retain him despite the amount of talent that left. 17 tackles for a loss, 6.5 sacks. Like this guy, he's a baller. Like, and it's great that he stayed, honestly. But I think that just points to, like you said, like pointing to the positives. Right now, I was surprised in doing my research to find how little Nevada was able to get in the portal. Like for lack of a better term, and like to avoid trying to sound mean, like the cupboard's kind of bare for Nevada and a couple other teams in this conference too, honestly. But yeah, Dylan LaBarbera is a baller, but it's a double-edged sword where it's like you have a guy that can change the game. Like you need some playmakers to step up, but we don't know who those playmakers are. Like he's gonna draw double and triple teams, but we don't know who's gonna step up, and we can only hope those guys step up and wreak havoc in the backfield or step into those open lanes caused by those double and triple teams. But yeah, Dylan Barbera he's a baller.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited to see him this year. He is going to be electric for the Wolfpack. So I'll go a different route here because that's actually originally what I had down. But I think this team will be pretty good running the ball too. I like the running back room, and very quietly, it feels like this coaching staff has done a pretty good job developing offensive line talent. So I think we'll see them look pretty solid there. So we'll go to our. We do definitely have some concerns. I mean, the team coming off a 3-9 season, that's going to happen. The one I'm going to throw out there right away is they need to figure out who their quarterback is going to be. Last year was far too inefficient.
Yes, I'm gonna go off of that and say the receiving core because going off of what I mentioned with the transfer portal, like you would have hoped that they would have brought in some talent from the portal. Just given off of what production returns, like in my notes, I saw the leading returnee caught 16 catches for 164 yards. So my biggest concern is who that quarterback is going to throw the ball to because Caleb Jones, though, like you mentioned, like the consistency, like he had some moments at quarterback along with the greater theme of the team, like showing some growth, but who's he going to throw to? Kind of like on the defense, like who is going to make the plays when Dylan LaBarbera is double, triple team? Like who is Caleb Jones going to throw to? The running back room, though, I definitely agree. Like I feel like Nevada is what I've noticed is their plug and play system at the running back position. Like last year it was like Savion Red, it was Savion Red, and then the prior year I'm forgetting the prior year's running back, but even Herschel Turner returns with 5 yards to carry.
Man, yeah, who was that the year before? I remember he had a very funny name.
Oh, Savion Red was 2024. The 2025 rusher is the one that's escaping my name because yeah, I just looked past all the guys that weren't there anymore, but I think their leading rusher had over 800 yards. So it's a very plug and play system for running backs.
Yeah, absolutely. So what does success look like for Nevada this year?
I'd hate to say a bowl game for everyone, so I'm just gonna I guess be creative on this one. I would say success for Nevada would be getting a couple wins over your peer teams in the conference, getting a couple wins over like your Wyoming, your UTEP, your NIU, making that march, getting close to bowl eligibility. But definitely, I think you want to gain ground on UNLV. You want to beat them in the Fremont Cannon game, which unfortunately is at Allegiant Stadium this year. But I think that's what success looks like. You beat your Mountain West peers, but most of all, you gain ground on UNLV because UNLV is just dusting them like right now, and it's not particularly close.
Absolutely. I think we want to see at least see the win total go up. 4, even 5 wins would be very helpful to at least start showing progress. And that UNLV game might be too much of an ask them to actually win that one, but at least make UNLV sweat it out a little bit. Make them have to work for it, and that way you can kind of show, okay, we're closing the gap, and we'll be there next year. So that's what I want to see out of Nevada this year. Now, this next team, this is another one that's really exciting. I think we're both very excited about this one. The New Mexico Lobos, a breakout season of all breakout seasons last year. Probably should have made the Mountain West Championship, to be honest. They were the hottest team at the end of the year. I was kind of disappointed they didn't get that. And, they body bagged UCLA, nearly beat the unbeatable when it comes to bowl games in Minnesota. So what are we looking at here for the Lobos? What excites you the most about this team?
Oh man, like I can go a number of directions, whether it be the offense and passing game, because Jack Lane got some weapons in the portal. I'm not going to go there, but he got some weapons in the portal. But I'm going to say the defense like really excites me. I mean, you have the great linebacking core headlined by Jackson Eck, and then of course like the guy that fascinates me the most in doing my research was Will Hicks, first team All Coastal Athletic Association corner at Hampton. Really good ball hawk, really, really great coverage corner. So they got like, if there's one thing that Jason Eck knows how to do, he has a good eye for talent. Basically, from what I've seen, like he knows which FCS talent translates well, excuse me, to the Mountain West, and this defense especially too. Like this defense, like teams are gonna have a hard time against this defense on both fronts, in the run game, in the pass game too. I'm really excited about Hicks though. And of course, like it's a double-sided coin. I would like a guy like Hicks to stay at a school like Hampton, but also too, I think that there's a good selling point with especially with how few group of six players were selected in the draft. New Mexico had one of them, so that's like and he was a defender too. I think Keyshawn James Newby. Like I think Jason X going to continue to have just this pipeline of FCS defensive talent pouring into New Mexico. But this year, this defense, it's going to be scary.
Yeah, his eye for talent is just absolutely remarkable. And the way he managed to pull this team together last year, and really even in Idaho, like he had to kind of remake his roster every year because people would try to pluck some of his best players away. That's a difference from this year. This year, they lost maybe a couple guys, but for the most part, a lot of this core stuck with New Mexico out of the portal. They changed their defense in 1 year from the worst in FBS to a tough physical defense that nobody looked forward to playing. Now in year 2, we're going to see that unit take another step forward. But I'll go ahead and jump to the offense. I think the running game is going to be really exciting as well. They went 4 deep at running back last year, and then most of the other backs didn't really get to play a whole lot because you just couldn't keep Bankston off the field. They still got 2 really good backs on this team that are going to be a lot of fun to watch. Like, and just Jason Eck in general, he's an electric human being. I'm very excited for New Mexico. Like this is an elite team in this conference. So what is your if they don't make the Mountain West Championship, like what do you think is going to be the issue that keeps them out?
Yeah, I have to say, like, just going off before I go on that, just going off your point with Jason Eck as a former resident of New Mexico. It's ironic because the whole appeal of his predecessor, Danny Gonzalez, was that this was a guy that's from New Mexico. His Bronco Mendenhall was his predecessor, but before Bronco Mendenhall, Danny Gonzalez, like this is a guy that's from New Mexico, that homegrown, right, played for the Lobos, but. I don't remember Danny Gonzalez embracing the 505 as much as Jason Eck has. Honestly, it's in another way. It's in a weird way. It's made me want to made me embrace like the New Mexican in me. That lived in New Mexico for 6 years. For 6 years before going to college. I think if there's a thing that's going to stop New Mexico from making the Mountain West Championship game, I want to say it's the quarterback position. Jack Lane was great last year. I think he's going to have a solid year, but there are times like there are some inconsistencies. I know we had 4 interceptions against Michigan. That's highly excusable, obviously. But, when it comes to, I think he had 3 picks against San Jose State. Those are things that shouldn't happen from, I'd say, for going quarterback rankings, a top 3 quarterback in the Mountain West, even top 2 potentially if you want to go back and forth with either him and Alejado or Jackson Arnold. So I'd say the quarterback play would probably affect New Mexico the most, or probably stop them the most in heading to the Mountain West Championship.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he needs to be a top level quarterback in order for New Mexico to win the Mountain West Championship. They can be good with him being serviceable, but to reach that championship level, they definitely need him to be playing at a very high level. I think also just really handling being the hunted now. Last year, New Mexico kind of snuck up on people. They were the hunters a little bit. I don't think they even got a whole lot of respect until they beat San Diego State in the finale. So now we're entering this year. Everyone knows about this team. How do they handle that will be a very good test. And then this is an interesting question because this used to be like, get to a bowl game and we're happy. What does success look like for New Mexico in 2026?
I'm gonna say it's a similar thing to Hawaii, where it's if they make a good bowl game, I'd say if they make a good bowl game this year, we'll say like 8-9 win range. I'm trying to think of the schedule. If they beat UNLV, if they beat some of these contenders, beat UNLV, beat North Dakota State, which North Dakota State, that game could potentially be a play-in for the Mountain West Championship game. But I'm hesitant to say that anything other than 8-4 with a solid bowl against maybe a Power Four team, maybe a upper echelon team from the American or Sun Belt. Just because this is a program that's fresh off a 8-year bowl drought. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just like, I know it's tough to say, like, last year was just so amazing and magical, but like I just think success also just looks like an 8-win season and a bowl game. Honestly, that's a tough one though, Justin. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like I'm tempted to say this team is all in on the Mountain West.
Yeah, it's a two-parter here, really, because, like you said, like an 8-win season in a nutshell is a huge success for New Mexico football. They remain with all this momentum. Albuquerque will be really excited about this team once again with an 8-win season. So I think you look at that and go, yeah, this is great. But at the same time, I don't like to talk about like the future a whole lot, make speculation, but Jason Eck is a really hot name out there, and he's from Wisconsin. Wisconsin's got a coach in the hot seat, and all of that. Like, we don't know how long Jason Eck is going to be here. I think he's going to stick around until there is something like a Wisconsin to jump to. But you're running low on time. If you're going to win the Mountain West Championship, this might have to be the year to do it.
Wow, that's food for thought. Because honestly, like, maybe maybe just looking at this through rose-colored lenses. Because like for me, like I like to think like in the now, like you. But that's a really good point too, where it's like Jason Eck won't be there forever. And I mean, of course, with New Mexico being a basketball market, you look at basketball. Richard Pitino was never going to be at UNM forever. Like, I don't care how good the Mountain West is at basketball. I don't care if it's a multi-bid league. I don't care if it's a 2, 3, 4, 5 bid league. Like, he was not sticking around the 505 forever. I don't care how nice the hot air balloons are in October. Just wasn't going to happen. So that's that's a great point that a lot of these programs are on borrowed time. I do want to say that I feel like the only coach that is there for the long run, I guess, since we're like kind of talking about the only coaches that I feel like are there for the long run in this conference are, I'd say 3. Jay Sawvel from Wyoming. I'd say Timmy Chang as well, just for obvious reasons. And then Kenny Matalolo, who's probably retirement job, and Troy Calhoun. So 4. Everyone else, I'd say, is like on borrowed time, hopping for the next spot. So that's a great point I just didn't think of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's kind of the interesting part. But again, if they win 8 games, I think everyone's still happy with that. So it really just depends on like how you want to approach that question. It's an interesting one with that team. But now this is one team that everyone has been very much looking forward to. North Dakota State has finally made the jump to FBS. What excites you the most about this team in their first FBS season?
I feel like this might be your answer too. The run game. Man, I wish I had better handwriting. They have a Holy Cross transfer running back. I think it's Neoti Pin. from Holy Cross. Of course, I like my Holy Cross transfers just being someone that lived in Worcester for 10 years. Love my Holy Cross guys. Honestly, like how this run game will operate because Wyoming is pretty much built off the North Dakota State blueprint with Craig Bowl and now Jay Sobel running the program. And we've seen Wyoming give teams fits, like especially in 2023 when they almost like flirted with going to the AP poll and they beat Texas Tech. I'm just excited about North Dakota State just roughing everyone up and lining them up. Going back again, running the ball straight up, and like I said, there's a new running back this year. But I have no doubt that wish I had better handwriting. Neoti Payton will have a good year in this scheme, but I'm just excited for just how physical this scheme is and how it'll match up in the Mountain West. So I think it matches up very well.
Yeah, I'm very excited because we've seen really successful FCS programs make the jump. Georgia Southern made the jump. Appalachian State made the jump. James Madison made the jump and succeeded immediately. But none of them have come in with such great credentials as North Dakota State. I mean, they have the most championships in FCS history. So they are not going to be intimidated by this move. They are going to come up here and expect to win every single game. So I'm very excited about that. I think this team will be very strong in the trenches. You mentioned the run game. I was excited about that as well. So I'll also say that I think the defense is going to be really good up front as well. So I think that's going to be also really exciting to see. Now, what is your biggest concern for the Bison in 2026?
So it seems like with the Bison that it's like a high and a maybe not so much low, but kind of medium, like a kind of lull when it comes to the quarterback position. That's not to disrespect any of the guys playing the quarterback position for North Dakota State, but I mean you have like Trey Lance, right? And then I mean shoot, I can't even say that Cam Miller was as much of a low for all that he was. But I guess I'll say that Nathan Hayes is a really tough act to follow at the quarterback position, following Cole Payton, who was the only FCS quarterback drafted, I believe, and one of the few non-power four quarterbacks, if not the only non-power four quarterback drafted at all in the draft. So the quarterback position concerns me a bit, only because we haven't seen Nathan Hayes like do as much. The North Dakota State system, it's for lack of a better term, it's like a service academy system where it's like, especially the quarterback position, where it seems like these guys, just sit behind, they watch, they learn, they get mentored, and they step in their game ready. But I think quarterback position is a bit worrisome, honestly. But I'd say like I'm not like super concerned about it. I think Nathan Hayes is going to rock it, to be honest with you, but he's just unproven, so there is that unknown.
Yeah, exactly. Like having an unproven quarterback is a scary proposition. But I think for me, maybe the biggest concern, and this will not be a concern for all of their games, but when it comes to the tougher teams on their schedule, the secondary in particular, adjusting to going against those top athletes will be a huge test for the Bison. Like, they're going to be able to hold up against most of the teams on their schedule this year. But when you go up, to win this conference, you're going to have to beat the UNLVs, the Hawaiis of the world. So how does their defense hold up against those receivers is going to be a huge test for this team. We've seen that happen in recent years when North Dakota State, their last two FBS games, we saw them kind of had some issues back there with that. So that will be their biggest adjustment moving up.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that, honestly, because I figured that I'm not a scout by any stretch, but I kind of figured that the Missouri Valley Conference athletes, especially like your South Dakota State, your Illinois State this past year, your South Dakotas, North Dakotas, I figured the athletes are pretty good. But then again, like you look at recruiting rankings and the makeup of those rosters, those are homegrown rosters, especially in the Dakotas. When you're facing off against, I mean, like you mentioned earlier, Power Four, last chance guys, and I don't mean that derogatory, but just guys that were recruited at Power Fours outside of high school, and like this is like their last chance to start on a team, to actually play football instead of being buried on a depth chart. So the talent's there. That's very interesting, honestly. Because I typically don't look at things from like a talent and like scouting perspective, but I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued now.
Yeah, and normally this is the secondary. They know what they're doing back there for sure, but that's definitely the speed that they'll be going up against is a new level, at least when it comes to what speed you're going to be going up against the third and fourth receiver is going to be different. I think when you play South Dakota State, like usually they're always going to have at least one stud receiver, one stud tight end. But now you got to go up against a whole plethora of guys, and then the running backs as well. So that'll be very interesting. So first FBS season, what does success look like for the Bison?
So I'm gonna be bold here just because of what this fan base is used to. I think success for the Bison is making the Mountain West Championship game, if not winning the conference. I think this is a team that can compete easily, like immediately. We know they can compete immediately, but I don't think it's a stretch to say that this team can win the league, honestly, just with how well they've competed and continue to compete with Power Four teams, the fact that no one wants to schedule North Dakota State, the fact that they almost win these games. And you as a Colorado fan, Justin, like remember the best Colorado team since 2016 when it went down to the wire against North Dakota State. And like looking back it made sense because Colorado was not that good in 2023, but like in 2024, like when that happened, you're just like, wow, like this, like in retrospect, it's like, wow, man, North Dakota State like still has their fastball, which obviously they do. So I think this fan base is gonna expect like results immediately, and I don't blame them. Like I think the only teams in this conference that if they were to line them up and play right now that are ifs, I would say the only if right now is UNLV. To be honest with you, like I think New Mexico is a one-score game right now if they play. I think Hawaii too is a one-score game as well, just because Hawaii had a little bit of consistency issues. But like, yeah, like I think anything but the Mountain West Conference title is a wash for this fan base.
Very interesting. I wasn't going to go quite that high. I was going to say that I think James Madison's debut season was 8 wins. So, I mean, I was getting up pretty close to that. I was going to say probably want to do better than that just for pride's sake. So 9 wins is what I was eyeing for the Bison. So that gets us to Northern Illinois, one of the stranger additions to this conference, but this is also not the first time that Northern Illinois and San Jose State have shared a conference together. Unique situation here with an interim head coach. What excites you the most about the Huskies this year?
I mean, you said it. Like, I mean, Teron Dickens honestly excites me the most, and I think from what it seems like, I see. I am a huge. I will never not be a huge Thomas Hammock fan. Just especially for the emotion that he showed after beating Notre Dame, crying in the interview. Like that. That is college football. Like. How can you not like Thomas Hammock? And I'm sad that we won't be seeing him coach anymore. But the read that I get from NIU fans is that his play calling was, or not his play calling, but his staff's play calling was bland, uninspired. The quarterback play left a lot to be desired. So I'm excited to see like the way that Teron Dickens uplifts this offense because I mean they already returned a good running back in Telly Johnson Jr. But I mean that play action game is going to be strong, and this is a team I think that to spoil I guess like my ceiling my expectations. This is a team that I think that can trap a couple teams, a couple of teams in the conference race in the wrong weekend just because of I guess what they're expecting, frankly, with Northern Illinois.
Yeah, you take that trip to the Cal, you may not come out a winner. Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head with that one. It was very similar for me. Teron Dickens, which by the way, my preview posted before Dickens signed with him, like a month before. So, he got me on that one. But Teron Dickens was a gift that really just dropped in the laps of this team. I really do think that he is going to be able to unlock the ability of some of these receivers. I feel like they've had potential, but like you said, the play calling and quarterback play just left a lot to be desired for this team. So, yeah, I think that's going to be the biggest excitement. What worries you the most about the Huskies?
I think in general, the defense, because just bottom of the line, the stat sheet, like this is the defense is starting from scratch. And like other schools like Nevada, like Wyoming, like they didn't really get as much in the transfer portal as you would hope, honestly. Like it's anyone's guess to see who's gonna adjust to playing against your high octane offenses like your UNLV, like your UNM, like your Hawaii too, because trying to think like the closest thing to anything like Hawaii in the MAC is probably Ohio because Brian Smith was a run and shoot disciple coach. I think he's part of the, if not June Jones, Greg McMackin coaching tree, which is an extension of the June Jones coaching tree. So like you don't see like I mean, you do see high octane offenses, but like seeing NIU go up against a Hawaii like they will this year, like especially with how little they have returning on defense, really concerns me. But yeah, I'd have to say the defense in general.
I will say in my case, I think it's going to be the lack of stability. When you enter a season with an interim coaching situation, you're really rolling the dice. You don't know what's going to happen. Things could bottom out, or you could have a sunrise like Mark Carney had at Kent State. So that provides some unpredictability when it comes to this team. I'm also a little concerned about the schedule too. Their non-conference is rough. There's Iowa, Arizona. You have the defending FCS runner-up, Illinois State, as well, and they're going to be gunning for them because, that's a lot of in-state pride on the line. And even what might be the easiest game on their schedule, Georgia State, that's on the road. Georgia State, even when going 3-9, beat Vanderbilt at home a couple years ago. So that game cannot be overlooked as well. So there's really just not an obvious win sitting there in the non-conference slate, and that's the first four games. Like, you could be going down a bad path pretty quickly when taking a lot of lumps there early on. So what does success look like for the Huskies in 2026?
I think success for the Huskies, like you said, like the schedule is brutal, honestly. But I think if they beat the teams, kind of like Nevada, they beat their peer teams in the conference. They show some growth. They show that there are some building blocks for next year. Which even though the quarterback position, I think they'll have to rebuild again because Dickens is a senior next year. But I think if you beat UTEP, you beat Nevada, you beat your Wyoming, right? You get 3 wins. Beat Illinois State as you should. Ideally, beat Georgia State. That's about 5 wins right there, right? So if they're at the 4 or 5 win mark and in contention for bowl season with the interim coach with enough, I guess, to attract the next guy to attract the permanent coach, I think that's success. Otherwise, like if this team just crashes and burns and goes like 2-10 or 1-11, and they don't get their ideal candidate, like I think that represents a failure for Northern Illinois, and I think that's a failure too. Like I think these fans in general. Another complaint I feel like with Hammock was that they saw because they know it better. I think that they felt was that the program had gotten kind of stagnant after the 2021 championship season because they had their peak, they had their moment. This is a program that obviously could do a lot, but just kind of like underperformed, I guess, per se. So I think if they set the foundation this year to get a good hire, I think that's success enough in this first.
Yeah, I agree completely. That's what I'm thinking too. I think we could see them, just look competitive. We want to see the offense take some steps forward, look a lot better, give them some hope for the future. And yeah, probably, especially defend the home turf, I think will be a huge key for the Huskies in 2026. We go to San Jose State, the Spartans, a team that had so much promise last year, and just about every break went completely against them. What excites you the most about the Spartans this year?
So I would say Luke Weaver, just because I'm still riding that Hawaii Bowl high. I think we all are. But I'm gonna talk about the
Yes.
receiving core. I think I'm gonna talk about the receiving core. Like, there's a lot of like power four guys that like are last chance guys. And again, like I said, I don't mean that derogatory. Like, it's their last chance to actually get some tape to play ball because playing group of six ball is better than not playing a ball at all and sitting the bench, in the power four. So I mean, there's a bunch of power four guys that are last chance guys in the receiving core. So I'm excited to see how they adjust to also run and shoot scheme out at under Kenny Matalolo and how they gel with Luke Weaver.
Yeah, like this is a coaching staff. Like, this staff has done such an impressive job with the receiver position. We had Nick Nash lead the NCAA in receptions, and then the following year, Danny Scudero does the same thing. So I'm excited to see who does it a third year in a row. But really, though, like I think it's a safe bet to say that San Jose State is going to have excellent receiver play. It's a fun little mystery because we don't know who exactly is going to emerge as that guy, but we know a guy is going to show up. So that's going to be really exciting for them. And then we have, I think on the defensive side, Brian Dukes Jr. is a player to look forward to as well. I think he's a very exciting safety for them. Now, what is your biggest concern for the Spartans?
It's funny you mentioned Brian Dukes Jr. because I'm gonna go towards the front line and say that the defensive line really kind of concerns me because they did lose some talent to some power fours in the transfer portal, but it doesn't seem like that they got backfilled well. So honestly, especially like with having to play teams that run the ball well, like New Mexico, like obviously Air Force, like North Dakota State, and even at times Nevada, your front seven, particularly your defensive line, it's going to need to be solid. I'm really concerned about the defensive line because I think it feels like that the relationship between what they lost and what they got back is the most concerning. It's like is the biggest there's the biggest like discrepancy. So I'm gonna go with the defensive line.
I think for me, we know this offense is going to take chances. That's what the run and shoot is. But can they rein that in a little bit? Be a little bit more choosy about when they take their chances and, calm down on the turnovers a little bit. Last year, they hit the point where it was just too many turnovers. This team just could not get out of their own way much of the year. Turnovers, penalties, all those self-destructive mistakes need to stay behind in 2025 so they can start fresh this year. What does success look like for the Spartans?
So for me, I'm gonna look at this from a institutional perspective where San Jose State has kind of long been criticized as like having like the most kind of apathetic fan base. It seems like the quietest fan base. I'm not gonna say apathetic, I'm sorry, because I know some San Jose State fans that are diehards, my dad included. My dad's a San Jose State fan by virtue like I root for San Jose State. I like when they do well. But I think there's like that perception where it's like success kind of happens in a vacuum there. Like 2020 is, I think, a good example where they won the conference championship and they underachieved the next year. They went 5-7. Then they went to a bowl in 2022, and then Brent Brennan was gone. Like it's kind of like I just feel like the success happens in a vacuum. So in general, like if they reach a bowl, and I'd say if they win that bowl, because they are currently on a, let's see, 2020, 2022, 2023, or 24, the Hawaii Bowl. 2023 Hawaii Bowl. They're on a 4-game bowl losing streak. So I'd say if they win that bowl, it's successful. It's not just like reaching the bowl. I think it's actually winning the bowl, getting the monkey off their back. That would be successful. But I don't think this is particularly a fan base that is really pressuring I guess the team to win the conference, to take that next step, even though like there's been glimpses of it. I just think this is a fan base that's just happy with making a bowl game, happy with competing well against USC on NBC in week 0. I mean, San Jose State fans can prove me wrong. You're probably going to clip this and make it seem like I'm calling San Jose State fans out, but it just seems to me like this is just an even keeled fan base.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think reaching a bowl is the goal here. Winning it would be great to get that bowl losing streak off, but at least making one is going to be very important for them to kind of level back to approaching conference title contention again, because they were expected to contend for the title last year and things didn't end up going that way. But I think a lot of people forget that this team still had the talent. They were in just about every single game. They just couldn't quite finish those games. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this in the slightest to see this team rebound. But we go to the UNLV Rebels now. Dan Mullen had an excellent first year. Now they're looking for a conference title. What excites you the most about this team?
Man, there's something about a UNLV running back, especially like in recent years, like with guys like Lexington Thomas, Charles Williams, and like Jaden Thomas is like following that mold. He's a high efficiency back. I'd like to see him get more carries, but Jaden Thomas really excites me, honestly. I would love to see his workload be increased more, but I think this offense in general is like definitely the most dangerous unit with Jackson Arnold. At least, yeah, I guess probably the most dangerous unit with Jackson Arnold, definitely like Jaden Thomas. So I have to say, in short, Jaden Thomas excites me the most.
Fire up the jet. Yeah, I actually, it was very funny because when they played, you mentioned his usage, when they played Miami, for whatever reason, like they barely handed him the ball in the first half of that game. And then he immediately got like 2 long touchdowns to start the second half. And I looked over at the intern and I was like, they fired up the jet. But I'm excited for Jackson Arnold. Last year, I was extremely pessimistic about him. I felt like him landing with Hugh Freeze was the absolute worst coach for him to end up with. He needs a coach that's going to build up his confidence, develop him. And now this year, it's the exact opposite where he has a coach, Dan Mullen, who is going to develop him, is going to build his confidence, will be not be afraid to use him as a runner as well. I think Jackson Arnold's in for a breakout year for the Rebels this year. What is
Yeah.
your biggest concern for UNLV?
I think my biggest concern if I had to choose one, something I've noticed it's weird, and maybe that's just the nature of the talent at this position at the FBS level, but there's just a lot of turnover at the receiver position with like a lot of these teams, and UNLV is no different. I don't doubt that Jackson Arnold will have a really great year, but again, like there is part of me where there is like a possibility where he doesn't gel with his receivers like beginning, and there is no trial by fire. There is no like I guess soft landing this year. Like they play Memphis right away, week 0 at home, like in probably a game that's going to be a playoff elimination game if we're being realistic with both schools. I mean, like so the receiving core kind of concerns me and the ability for Jackson Arnold to gel in that first game because we've seen that a lot with a lot of teams that are transfer heavy where it takes like a little bit like early in the season for them to, get the wheels greased and then they're rolling. That I guess in kind of a two-part answer, like the receiver position, then Jackson Arnold's ability to gel in general with that offense.
I'm kind of looking at the defense a little bit. Can the interior manage to hold up well, especially against some of the stronger run games in this conference? And I think with some returning talent, we're going to see a little bit better. Last year, they did have a tendency to give up big plays. We'll need to see them shore that up a little bit. What does success look like for UNLV in 2026?
Well, I think winning the conference for sure. That's like that. This is probably the easiest one. Like winning the conference, like easiest school out of all 10 of these football only members is winning the conference. And there frankly isn't no excuse. Honestly, there was an excuse in 2024, 2025, like where they had the talent. Just Boise State was in the way. This year there is no Boise State. This year the team that might be in the way is North Dakota State. Which like the casual fan, which I don't know many UNLV fans, and I haven't been around the fan base, but I'm inclined to think that because UNLV is a big city, there's a lot of casual fans that will see if UNLV loses to North Dakota State in the conference championship game and see this team. They'll but I assume that a lot of these casual fans will refer to incorrectly to North Dakota State as a Division II school team last year. Um, I think people will just be really upset with that. And even too with Hawaii, if they lose to Hawaii in the conference championship game, another team, or even New Mexico, like teams that had not arrived, that weren't known commodities before last year, I definitely think that I don't think that the seat's gonna get hot per se for Dan Mullen, but I think people are gonna look for answers if they don't win the conference this year.
Yeah, I agree. This is an easy one. Success looks like a conference title for UNLV. They've been knocking on the door for the last couple of years. Boise State was the only thing in the way. They're not out of the way. The road is clearing for UNLV to win this. We go to UTEP now. The Miners reunited with programs out west. I'm really excited for them. This kind of feels like it's back in the old WAC days a little bit, which is where UTEP's program had more success. What excites you the most about the Miners in 2026?
I have to say, if I were to go to an individual person, I'm gonna go with Tavoris Jones, the transfer running back from Missouri. Not because he's from Missouri, but because he's a hometown guy from Burgess High School, and I really think so. Living in El Paso, living in Albuquerque, and playing high school football in the Albuquerque metro, like I really think that like, these are communities and these are markets that rally around their local guys. Even like you'll meet a lot of people in El Paso that just love Aaron Jones. Honestly, they love Aaron Jones, and in fact, like funny story about Aaron Jones, a sergeant that I knew well in my old unit, he told me about this time that apparently Aaron Jones went incognito at his unit's turkey bowl and just started like going off. Just started going off and like scoring touchdowns. Like they let family members play in the game, and of course, technically, Aaron Jones is a family member of said soldier, and so he just scored touchdowns. This, of course, I can't prove this, but this was a story that was told to me. But that's to say that the people of El Paso love Aaron Jones, and like I think for Tavoris Jones to come back and represent El Paso, and even Deion Hankins too. Even though he transferred out, like Deion Hankins was a fan favorite, a guy that people loved and supported. So I have to say I'm excited about Tavoris Jones just from my experience in the area, just from like El Paso needs kind of like a champion, like kind of like I guess someone to rep the orange and blue, you know. So I'm excited about him.
That's a good one. I'll go with a transfer as well. Northern Colorado receiver Carver Cheeks. I think he is going to be a guy who proves to be a difference maker for this offense. This offense just could not find easy scores last year. And he is a guy that can break into space and potentially break a long touchdown. Just kind of make the job a little bit easier for the quarterback, EJ Colson, on this team. What is your biggest concern for the Miners this year?
I think specifically, I'd have to say the quarterback position with EJ Colson because it seems like it's always been an uphill battle with this team in getting good quarterback play since Gavin Hardison graduated. Um, it's just really tough. I mean, Gavin Hardison was the man, honestly. You know, really talented, and I thought honestly, I drank the Malachi Nelson Kool-Aid, and this is not a shot at him, but he just kind of underdelivered when he played. And so now we have a guy, EJ Colson, who's experienced, highly touted out of the portal. Um, I'm kind of concerned, honestly, about getting burnt twice, about getting excited about a UTEP transfer quarterback. I think the quarterback play and the influx of receivers that they did get, I think that helps a lot, honestly. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't concerned about the quarterback position.
Yeah, and for me, another position that they have been trying to address and have had no success with, the offensive line is my biggest
Okay.
concern. This unit was dysfunctional last year. There wasn't really anything from the portal that is proven to be an instant solution for this. So you've got a lot of guys who have either struggled or are unproven at this level at the offensive line, and they desperately need the offensive line to be better this year. That has been one of the weak points for the Miners in the entire Scotty Walden era, really. So they definitely need that sorted out. What does success look like for UTEP in 2026?
So for me, time might be running out with like Scotty Walden, and I think Scotty Walden's got I think he's got a great heart, and I think he's ambitious, and I think he's got a great energy for the job. The results just haven't been there. But I think for me, for success for UTEP, I think UTEP just has to beat like specifically like I don't think a win over Northern Illinois would do much for the local fan base. And let me just preface what I'm about to say with this. The UTEP fan base is arguably one of the best in the group of five. The city of El Paso will show up. They showed up for teams that UTEP had very little history with as a program. And they'll show up on a Tuesday night against Sam Houston, Wednesday night against Sam Houston, 20, 30,000 strong in the Sun Bowl. And I think a win, that's not to say, I think with what I'm going to say is like I think a win over Northern Illinois wouldn't do as much as a win over your Air Force, a win over your Nevada, your UNMs, your San Jose State. So I think if they get some wins over those old WAC rivals and kind of get the nostalgia turned back on for the UTEP fan base, I think that's successful because I was thinking a lot about NIL preparing for this podcast and about how some of these teams can succeed because in my mind I'm thinking like Wyoming because like there's always a debate between money and legacy. Like Wyoming should be able to be say like to give a legacy, or I guess present that legacy as a bargaining chip for its recruits to stay or attracting guys for NIL. Like with UTEP, like you have a hardworking community of people. You have a military town of people that become lifelong fans of the program, like myself, and then you also have the border in Mexico too. So that's three very strong markets, one of them national, one of them local, one of them international even. And so I think if you get that buy-in, especially with a local fan base, and get a product on the field that brings back memories of, the old days when the WAC was around, that brings some hope to this fan base, I think the fans are going to show up in droves. Maybe not droves, but they're going to show up even stronger than they already do, and it's going to help the program out in the recruiting battle. So I guess I'm sorry for getting long-winded with like New Mexico and Utah, but these are programs that like I've lived around and like can speak like passionately about because I want them to do well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that is such a really cool insight from someone that has lived there. And I've always loved UTEP as well. And their fan base is fantastic. Like, actually, really, when this podcast actually started to go somewhere, UTEP was definitely one of the first fan bases that really got behind us. Really enjoyed that we were talking about them. And so we always love to talk about the Miners here. And I do think that maybe a bowl game is out of reach, but I think like you said, just they need some encouraging results. Win some games in the Sun Bowl, maybe get very close, like 5 wins would look really good. And just show that, hey, you know what? First couple years are rough, but this thing is finally moving in the right direction. And in 2020, now that we're in the Mountain West, kind of feels like the old whack again. Coming up here shortly in the future, this team's going to get back to winning and getting back to a bowl game. So that's what I'm looking at for them as well. We go to our final team on the list, the Wyoming Cowboys. Last year kind of felt like it started your typical Wyoming fashion. Not a lot of offense, a lot of defense, but then it kind of trailed off as the year went on. They did not reach a bowl. What is the most exciting thing for you this year when you look at Wyoming's team?
So yeah, before I go with Wyoming, I just want to give a quick shout out since we're all talking about UTEP. I want to shout out Pinky, probably like the biggest diehard UTEP fan I know. That man wore like the, I guess, Texas license plate. Said something about UTEP. I had a good conversation with him at the Don Haskins Sun Bowl Invitational. Really great guy. I'm pretty sure he's really really well known within the UTEP fan base. So shout out Pinky. That's just the type of fans you get at UTEP. But with Wyoming, I think what excites me the most is the quarterback position. And like you mentioned, with like the typical Wyoming game, like not a lot of scoring, a lot of tough defense. I think that Wyoming has like they've been able to have some surprisingly fun guys at quarterback, and like of course like yeah, Josh Allen, like you're wearing the jersey, right? Josh Allen. But like guys like Levi Williams running all over the place in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. I can still go back in time and just remember that day sitting at the Olive Garden sports bar with my mama on Christmas Eve, just watching that game and just being like, wow, is anyone to stop that guy? But like Levi Williams, Sean Chambers, Andrew Peasley, Birmingham Stallions, great. I think they have another fun guy at quarterback here in Tyler Hughes, where it's like Caden Anderson wasn't a bad quarterback, but I think Tyler Hughes can take the offense to another level, and more importantly, I think he can make less mistakes because I think Wyoming runs into trouble when they turn the ball over, when they put their offense in a hole where they have to climb back up. And Caden Anderson didn't have a particularly bad year, but he threw 10 interceptions. You compare that to probably the best Wyoming team we've seen since Josh Allen, the 2023 team, and Andrew Peasley was cooking in 2023. He had like, I think, 4 or 5 interceptions that entire year. So I think looking at Hughes limits the mistakes, or he limited the mistakes of William and Mary. And this is a guy that is dynamic. He reminds me of that Levi Williams type, reminds me of that Andrew Peasley type, that Sean Chambers, and can bring some excitement to this offense. So I'm excited for the Tyler Hughes show because I think college football is a better place when teams are crapping their pants in Laradice at War Memorial Stadium in Laramie. I think college football is just definitely a better place when that happens.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Weird things happen in Laramie all the time, and yeah, I think seeing Wyoming home games, that's always something to look forward to because you just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, last year probably their craziest moment was the UNLV game where you look at the broadcast and it looked like it basically snowed all over the field, but the Wyoming locals are like, no, it's actually hail. But crazy stuff like that happens in Laramie. But I'm looking forward to their strength in the trenches. I mean, this team's going to be really good there once again. Lots of great players there that are going to push teams around a little bit. And yeah, I mean, I think that sets up Tyler Hughes with a chance for success. What is your biggest concern for Wyoming?
So, caveat to Tyler Hughes, I think it's the running back position because they really didn't backfill well at the running back position, and there really isn't much returning in the running back position. And we know how much we need a running back, or sorry, not we, how much Wyoming needs a running back for this system to go, with it being pretty much a North Dakota State clone. So like Tyler Hughes can't do it all on his own. Like the system works best when there's a quarterback running back tandem. Yeah, like the running back position really concerns me the most because you really don't have much returning there.
For me, I want to see this team button up a little bit. The sloppiness we've seen from Wyoming, you mentioned the turnovers earlier. That's one issue. Penalties, other mistakes have been another issue for Wyoming the last couple of years. And that just is not Wyoming football. This is a team that plays clean, disciplined football. They take advantage of every opportunity they get, win in the margins a little bit, and really just come out of games that it feels like there's no way they should have won, but they end up winning it anyways. Obviously, we have hardly seen that since the 2023 or was I got the years mixed up, but since the Arizona Bowl when they somehow beat Toledo in that game. That game is the epitome of what Wyoming football is supposed to be, but the sloppiness we've seen lately has not been what we're expecting. So I'll go ahead and say what I believe success looks like for Wyoming this year. I think ultimately this team needs to make it to a bowl game. There is no other option out there. They are used to going to bowls. They have fallen short the last couple of years. Make a bowl this year, and it looks like this team is going in the correct direction. So yeah, a bowl game is definitely the huge key there for Wild. All right, so now it's time to put our cards on the table and go with our predictions for the Mountain West. So Omar, who is your Mountain West sleeper? Yeah. I think with especially the right answers on defense, you could see Air Force be a top contender in this conference. They had the potential to do that. I was definitely thinking about Air Force as mine, but just to make sure that we get a different answer in here, I'll go ahead and say Wyoming. We could see Tyler Hughes really take this offense up another level. We haven't really gotten to see the receivers show what they can do because the offense has not been functional passing the ball the last couple of years. And I think this team can finally, I think with less pressure on executing perfectly, I think they'll be able to relax a little bit and just be a more clean operation. Wyoming's been kind of a team that hasn't really been talked about in the Mountain West this year. Everyone kind of just puts them somewhere, below like the top four, but above like the bottom two. And I think Wyoming carries a little bit of sleeper potential. They could definitely spoil someone's season in Laramie this year. Yeah, I think it's really cool. Like they actually do represent the whole state. There's no other college within the state, so at least none that play football. So I think that's always really cool for them. So Mountain West title predictions. What is your pick? We're good. Yeah, go ahead. I'm gonna go with UNLV versus North Dakota State. I think North Dakota State is going to come up. They're going to be hungry. They're going to be ready to contend for this conference title. But ultimately, I do have UNLV pulling it off at the end as well. This team really has the most talent out of everyone in the Mountain West. And Dan Mullen's such a great coach. I think UNLV has been knocking on the door now for a few years now. And this is the year they finally bust through and win the conference. I had a feeling like both of us, one of us is going to pick New Mexico, one of us is going to pick North Dakota State. So really, when you went, I was just going to go and pick the other one. So that way we have a variety here. So yeah, I wanted to be a little contrarian to go with North Dakota State instead of New Mexico. But yeah, I think this conference is going to be a lot of fun this year. I'm very excited to see them play, and we already know most of the kickoff times, which is a huge plus. So, Omar, you are currently sideways on here. We'll go ahead and wrap this up. Sideways, Omar, where can the people find you? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, make sure you check out Omar and everything that he's doing. He's got a lot of great college football content to help you survive this last month of the off season, and we're here to help you with that as well. After a break here that we had in recording our shows, we are back for preseason content, previewing all sorts of different conferences. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. And of course, be sure to follow us on Twitter and subscribe to our Substack for even more detailed previews on each of these teams. Thank you and have a good night.